You're listening to eCommerce Fastlane, the podcast show to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company. Powered by Shopify. Listen to real conversations with partners and subject matter experts as they share proven practical strategies, platforms, and the best Shopify apps to help you accelerate your business. The time is now for you to improve efficiencies, grow revenue, profit, and lifetime customer loyalty. Please welcome your host, startup founder and strategic advisor, Steve Hutt.
Well, hey there, welcome back to eCommerce Fastlane. I'm your host, Steve Hutt. Now, today we're going to dive into, I'm going to call it one of the biggest challenges, if not the biggest challenge that I think Shopify merchants are actually facing right now. And it's just the fact that, probably more than 98% of your website visitors really are leaving without buying anything. We know this typical conversion rate. And really, that's not just a statistic. Like, it truly is, I would call it revenue that's kind of walking out the door every single day. And you're paying for this traffic in a lot of cases. This is not just like organic reach. This is paid ads driving traffic to your website. And all of a sudden, what mechanisms do you have in place to kind of like, first of all, identify who some of these unknown visitors are? 2% are buying, but 98% are just kind of flying away somewhere else. Now, you may have some interesting tech stack in there like, well, what can I do to offer them to get access to their email address or their Instagram DM, or can I get their phone number in exchange for a discount or some kind of like a VIP opt-in? That's certainly an option. But what's interesting about today is that my guest has built an incredible piece of software. It's really all around retention marketing. It really helps brands to identify a lot of these anonymous website visitors. I think there's competitors that are doing something similar, but they're only revealing less than 5%. And I think what's interesting for, these Shopify merchants that are listening today is that I think this conversation is going to be gold for you. Number one is I think we're talking about, I said, turning these existing traffic that you already have into revenue without having to spend any extra money on ads, which I think is really, really interesting. So, hi, Liam. Welcome to eCommerce Fastlane.
Thanks, Steve, and excited to be here. I'm in Sydney at the moment, so thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's great. Little afternoon recording for me is great. Early morning for you. Thank you for the flexibility to make all this work today. So let's talk about your company. I know it's called Instant.One, so that's O-N-E. And so I want to talk about some of the problem, on a high level first, kind of before we dig really deep. What sort of core problem? Because there's lots of layers to your platform, but what are some of the core problems that you're solving today?
Yeah, for sure. So, me and my co-founder, Will, we started the company almost 3 years ago now. And today we work with around, over 1,000 Shopify brands across the world with on Instant now. So we've seen pretty rapid growth. I guess where we kind of really lie is Instant helps brands to unlock these shoppers who are already visiting their website today, who aren't purchasing, who are leaving their website, and the brand ordinarily has no way to bring them back to purchase. So yeah, at a really high level, we help a brand unlock and identify the visitors that are landing on their website. We then plug those email addresses into your email system like Klaviyo and allow you to retarget those shoppers, bringing them back to purchase. So sending out more emails means more shoppers coming back, which means obviously more revenue in the door. That's, and we work with some pretty large brands in the US now, like Liquid I.V and et cetera, who, see incredible growth.
Yeah, and I've noticed a lot of just pretty high profile logos on your homepage. I love July Luggage. There's quite a few others on here that are just like, these are incredible brands. And clearly they could vet a lot of different solutions in the market, but they're choosing your retention platform to kind of help power their website. And clearly, even kind of before recording, I read a few of the case studies leading up to today. And it's just pretty impressive of kind of like the outcomes, these business outcomes that people are getting by, revealing a lot of these anonymous website visitors and saying, okay, well, now what do we do with it? Clearly there was an intent to want to do something, but it didn't complete that intent. And so it's interesting that you're able to somehow reveal that through technology. And then from there's a process, if it's like you said, connecting over to Klaviyo and then having some kind of thanks for visiting sequence, or by the way, this is still in your cart, even though maybe they haven't legally opted in yet. I still think there is. It's interesting in the US, you have that kind of opportunity. I know in Canada, I don't think that's, though I think there's different types of laws and things that go around kind of revealing these unknown site visitors. But
Well, in our case, we only, that's kind of where we stand out compared to, a lot of other platforms in market, is that we really only double down or help a brand remember who their opted in shoppers are. So we don't necessarily allow a brand to, just email anyone who's landing on their website. We really look for, high intent signals about this shopper. They've expressed opt-in to your brand. They're expecting to get an email from you, which then has so many benefits, like, your unsubscribe rate, doesn't plummet. Your spam rate doesn't plummet. And, also just from a brand perspective, it's really important that you only email people who are expecting to hear from you. But we just allow you to open up, kind of cast a wider net and allow you to email more of these people who are landing on your website, like, a busy mom who's shopped with you 5 times before, but ordinarily your website forgets who they are. And so you have no way to bring them back to purchase or remind them that they've left something in their cart.
Yeah, no, it's pretty wild that you have that, and that's how you've organized the platform. When I go over under products, it seems like there's, I guess, almost different layers to what's available. Can you talk a bit about, I guess, the first product that we're just kind of discussing right now is the audiences one, like understanding these kind of high intent customers that are on the site, and then how that is piped over to Klaviyo and whatnot. Can you talk about some of the other parts of your platform and then how that's helping Shopify brands?
Yeah. So, I guess the core value of Instant is that we are a piece of technology that helps a brand remember who their shoppers are. And so, with this, we have the best shopper identification, and brands will generally just get started with instant audiences. And as I said before, instant audiences helps a brand unlock the visitors who are on their website, and we can then increase your revenue. However, we then also have Instant AI, which helps a brand craft the most converting retention marketing emails using AI. So, you no longer have to sit down for hours and hours and hours every week or once a year, messing around with all of your Klaviyo flows and, the creative side of things, and then figuring out what offer to put in there. And then when Black Friday, Cyber Monday hits, you've got to go through all your emails and reset all of your email copy and templates. And so we can craft all of that automatically for you. And then we also have instant attribution, which basically, because we have the best shopper identification, there's also a fair argument to say that we have the best attribution tool because we're helping a brand know who's visiting their website. And so with these tools together, we truly help a brand. We're almost like a marketing manager's best friend. We help them, increase their revenue, know where their revenue is actually coming from, and help them craft the best converting emails for their business.
That's very cool. And now what about the tech stack? 'Cause I know a lot of times, when I was inside Shopify, I would do a lot of podcast recordings very similar to this and saying, hey, someone would talk about a certain piece of technology and saying, wow, that's solving a very unique problem. I don't have that. And yes, I want the incremental lift of understanding these high intent customers and segment them off and then start marketing to them. That in itself is like utopia. That's fantastic. The challenge that some brands and marketers say is, well, I don't want to interrupt what I already have going on with either apps or other connections. Can you talk about maybe the intentionality about who you play nicely with and why you've kind of designed your platform the way you have?
Yeah. So maybe if I'm interpreting your question correctly, I think that where our technology or how our technology is built is that we avoid the cookie apocalypse for brands,
Yeah.
Yeah, Meta and email and everything used to be so lucrative for e-commerce brands. And, since the cookie apocalypse, I think a lot of this has really changed. But there's definitely a path forward. It's just you need to leverage technology now to enable it a hell of a lot better. And so what we do is we use just so many different pieces of data on a shopper so that we're able to remember who they are. So things like on-device cookies, but also server-side cookies. We also remember things like their IP address and, so many things that we've built into our platform. And then we triangulate these pieces of data together. So when they return to your website, we connect them up and we're able to know who they are. But the other side to this is that we also connect different platforms, pieces of data together. And a lot of this is super technical and a brand will never need to worry about this. But in interest of transparency, I guess, like Klaviyo remembers who some of your shoppers are, your Safari remembers who some of your shoppers are, Meta remembers who some of your shoppers are, but none of them collectively remember who your shoppers are combined. And so what we do is both unlock a whole new pool of shoppers and remember them for longer, but we also start to tap into your already existing platforms and make sure that you're actually taking advantage of shoppers who, do have a very high intent, have given you their email address, etc., and you ordinarily wouldn't email them.
Yeah. And once again, I guess I was just trying to think about exactly that, as saying, hey, some marketers say, well, we have Klaviyo. Do you play nicely with Klaviyo? Yes, we do. Okay, great. And then they say, well, I use Attentive or PostScript for my SMS strategy. I mean, what's your thought on like these little pieces of technology that are, either an app or a marketing platform that's connected? There is some shareable data points that are available. Have you kind of called out any, other than Klaviyo, have you called out any specific piece of technology and saying, hey, we play nicely with them because we believe that we're enriching the marketing strategy because of what we do?
So mostly on the email side, we either connect with Klaviyo, but most brands just rely on us to send their retention marketing emails.
Okay, there you go.
Okay.
And
so we kind of remove the need for a middleman then, which just makes it so much easier to go live. It's so much quicker, there's less risk, etc. We also just try and I think so many tech platforms today, you get pitched the product and it just seems so complicated. It's like, I've got to kill this piece of technology to enable this one, and it's got to plug into this, which hopefully it means it can do that. For instance, most brands will have a conversation with someone on our team and 3 days later they're live, generating revenue. So it's always very, very quick to get a customer live or a new brand live. Then we have a check-in at 14 days and make sure that their results are on track. And, then it's very, very plug and play from there. It's almost turnkey solution in a sense. There's no heavy lifting. And I think so, to answer your question, we try and actually avoid a lot of the integrations as much as possible, not because it disadvantages or makes things more complicated, but honestly, just because it makes things so much easier and so much quicker to go live without any technical overhead for a brand.
I see. So let's talk about maybe, I guess I call it the ROI focus, or getting some kind of results, because I think, one thing I find interesting is that success, I think, with this platform really is much more than just, these email addresses that have been captured and then having these high intent customers. But can you talk a little bit about like the actual like tracking that's happening inside Instant? And is it just revenue attribution? Is it true like lifestyle or like the journey mapping? I'm just trying to understand overall, like once you have a customer or at least a potential customer, are we following them along in some kind of almost a CDP inside your platform, so we understand who they are, they've been identified, and here's the journey that they have been following to an eventual like conversion? I just want to understand like the ROI and the KPIs that I think are tracking that you believe are important.
Yeah, 100%. So, I mean, the biggest thing that we track is just revenue uplift, honestly.
Okay.
We really want to increase a brand's revenue quickly and significantly. And most brands will always see at least 8 times ROI with Instant. So it's almost like a money tree in a sense. You're already, like you said before, you're already spending so much cash in driving these shoppers to your website in the first place. And so you may as well take more advantage of these shoppers who are already landing on your website and bring them back to purchase. And so, this shopper lands on your website through a Facebook ad. They browse around for a while. They don't purchase. However, they've shown a really high intent to purchase, and perhaps they've just been distracted. Ordinarily, that shop would be lost forever if they don't come back to purchase, and you have absolutely no idea who they are, one, but you have no way of emailing them or bringing them back, which is the worst thing. And so what Instant does is that shopper lands on your website, they show a really high intent, they're browsing around, then they leave. We know who we know what their email address is. We plug that email address into your already existing Klaviyo retention marketing sequence. So you don't need to go and create any new emails. We plug it in and we're firing off that email to that shopper at the right moment. And so, most brands will just send retention marketing emails to obviously whoever they can send one to. we generally double or triple the amount of retention marketing emails that get sent by a brand. And we do this by uplifting the identification rate of shoppers who are landing on your website. So across our merchant base today, before Instant, most brands will see around a 10 to 12% of their shoppers being identified on their website. With Instant, most brands will see between 40 and 60% of their shoppers identified on their website. And so, an increase in identification means, like July Luggage, for example, that you mentioned before, since going live 10 months ago, that we've increased their revenue by about 1.2 million. And one brand that we went live with just last week, they're obviously, quite a large brand, but we increased their revenue by $600,000 in their first 7 days with Instant. So, it's a direct correlation by increasing identification of these shoppers, sending out more retention marketing emails, and getting it live super, super quickly. It's like tick, tick, tick. And then revenue is, the glory at the end, I guess.
Yeah, it's interesting too. I want to say you have a celebrity founder, but Davey Fogarty from the Oodie, and then Shark Tank Australia and stuff like that. And obviously he's had phenomenal success just with the Oodie alone, like kind of before you even existed. But he's made the choice. He stepped down a bit as being kind of in the day-to-day operations, but still founder of the business and still part of the board. But it's interesting. What is there any other than him and maybe a few others? Is there any other like case studies that caught your attention lately and saying, wow, look what their life was before having Instant turned on, and now look at their life now. I mean, it's easy to throw these numbers around, but then I've seen so many great case studies on your website. Is there any that's really has caught your attention as of late?
I think at this point, it's just super. I catch up with so many brands.
I bet.
And I always just find it so fulfilling when they're like, what, holy shit, like you increased my revenue by hundreds of thousands of dollars.
I know.
And you don't necessarily need to be the biggest brand, on planet Earth to see those results. Like, some of these SMB brands who even just have a team of like 5 people, even less sometimes, are seeing, significant results. And generally the way we calculate this before a brand goes live is, we will at least double your existing email revenue, flow revenue as you see it today. And so just by switching us on, just by taking advantage of your already existing site traffic, you're just unlocking this pool of revenue that you never knew possible. And I think that really excites brands, like in the US, it's, exciting to work with brands like, like Liquid I.V, for example, but also Saltaire, Scotch and Soda, Heaven Mayhem, like Toys R Us, Garrett Popcorn. There's so many of these
are huge
brands
I know.
that have also trialed Instant compared to, maybe other solutions in market, and that they've chosen to go with us because of the identification rate increase and obviously the revenue.
Yeah, it's great. I know one that really caught my attention just before recording was this College & Co. Pretty amazing that, in 30 days, they were using, I think, the Instant Audiences tool, but they were able to raise their revenue incrementally by $150K and 20,000 kind of retargeted shoppers. And, for them, it was a 62x ROI. So it was like a pretty impressive 30 days for them. And they're like, okay, well, now they're definitely a big fan.
Absolutely. The brands that win most, in my opinion, are the brands that, like in College & Co.'s case, like they are just absolute guns at top of funnel driving shoppers to their website. Whether it's performance marketing or working with influencers or affiliates or, whatever they do, they're just so good at building hype and attention. And most brands, that's where they stop. They're so good at and a lot of founders are just so good at marketing their product, whether it's through founder brand or whatever. However, majority of them stop investing at the point that they get the shopper to their website. Whereas say brands like the Oodie, for example, with Davey, or College & Co, like you just mentioned, they are probably the very best at going like the next layer down compared to so many other brands where they invest in everything to convert that shopper. And like that's truly where they get so much of their growth is they don't just focus on getting these shoppers to their website. They focus on getting these shoppers to their website and then really double down on how to convert them. Like the best checkout flow, the best product pages, the best shopper identification, predictive opt-in, So, you're not annoying brands through an annoying capturing emails better.
Yeah.
Like they just do it so well.
Yeah. So it's interesting. So the setup, you said it's like fairly quick. Your team can get people up and running pretty quickly. Is this like through like a private Shopify app, or is it through like your own JavaScript? Like, can you walk us through just maybe on a technical side, but how easy it actually is?
Yeah, for sure. So our ideal scenario is a brand will catch up with someone in either our sales or customer success team, and we'll help them just understand their business and give them a bit of a prediction on how much Instant's going to cost them, but then most importantly, what ROI they're going to see, how they need to improve their emails to get the best results, and etc. So we try and get a full picture on their business beforehand, so they know what they're jumping into with no blinders on. But that's generally just like a 20-minute conversation. Then I sent a link to our dashboard, which they then go through. It's all self-service, very easy, probably takes most brands like 20 minutes max, where they install a piece of JavaScript on our website and a pixel. And once that's done, we're able to clone their existing Klaviyo flows. And from there, we can push them live. So yeah, most brands will go live in 48 hours to, 3 days. And so it's very, very quick. Like our average go live time is 3 days right now. And so it's pretty, very, very simple. And one of the things that we really kind of, I guess so many other companies focus on revenue uplift or their product in general, or, small features in terms of their competitive advantage or why they're better than other products in market. For us, one of our biggest, I think, things that we focus on a lot is just customer success and always being there to help set up or with, performance, etc. And so, our customer success team is one of our biggest teams in the company, and they just help brands go live super quick.
I love that. So it's almost like a strategic partner, pretty much, understanding the business and then helping get set up. And then from there, so it sounds like the ingestion process, it would be a little bit longer depending on the size of business. And when you're having legacy records of, customer records and order history and things like that, all being ingested. And then from there.
Well, even then, I think it generally doesn't matter how big you are as a brand. If you're using Shopify or even any e-commerce platform, because we're just installing a pixel on your website, it's super easy to go live. It's easy as installing a Google Analytics pixel on your website. It's you could have had it done in the 25 minutes that we've been speaking easily.
Exactly. Well, that's the goal, right? So cost factor. So how do you, because you mentioned that, hey, maybe it's best to talk with someone on the sales team or customer success side and understand your current business so we can understand what we believe or what you believe the revenue lift is going to happen because of the solution, because you have enough history now with certain brands by verticals. But how do you typically cost the product? Because clearly the ROI is there for most brands that choose to turn on the solution. So it's clearly an extremely high ROI, but how, like physically, how does a merchant actually pay to get access to your platform based on the revenue lift they do get?
Yeah, so we always give a trial within their first month with Instant. So
okay, perfect.
Generally a brand will get 50% off in their first month with Instant, and then we guarantee some type of ROI out of that. So we always try and guarantee at least 4 times ROI based on what you're paying us. And our pricing then fluctuates based on the ROI that we're delivering. So
I see.
That just then makes it, super easy for a brand. They're not, worrying if Instant is, or if they're getting a return on investment from using Instant. It is baked into the platform. And so, a lot of brands consistently see fluctuated pricing based on the size of their brand, which goes up obviously if they grow, and down if they are a bit smaller. But pricing is super relative to the size of the brand for us, where we try and suit everyone.
I see. Okay, very cool. And so, what do you see the future of retention marketing? I've been asking this question a lot lately, and I think part of it is just the AI variable that a lot of people are thinking about. There's a lot of kind of on-page personalization engines. There's a lot of like cart and checkout flows, and a lot of different things going on from different partners, and they're really trying to leverage that. It's a little bit confusing a lot, and we know that retention marketing really is the holy grail because the cost per acquisition is quite high, and knowing how do I get that second, second sale, that third sale. Overall, what's your thought process right now about the future of retention marketing? And then how are you positioning Instant so that they can continue being a leader in that space?
Yeah, I mean, this is where I'm most excited, I think. I think brands are, just miles behind if they're not using AI in their business
Correct.
today.
Yeah.
However, I think that when you speak about AI, particularly in e-commerce, everyone's speaking about AI. Everyone's talking about AI, but not many people are really talking about how to use it in their business today. It's still, treated as this like hypothetical thing. And I just don't think that's the case anymore. There's so many ways to improve your business like yesterday. I think that the first thing on AI is just stop wasting time on the things that, AI can do. And I think in our case, where we're really focused is in the retention email creation. As I said before, a brand will sit down for, once a year and they can't be bothered again, or, it's a consistent battle to update their retention marketing templates. And let's say their Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign comes along, they've updated all their codes and the branding on their website. And then it's like the last minute thing to fix their emails. And, email is driving like 25% of most merchants' businesses, yet it's like the most painful and thing that gets forgotten about and left to last minute. And so I think there's a true opportunity. And what we're doing at the moment is, if we just onboarded like 100 and we're at the 26th of the month and we've onboarded 136 brands to Instant AI so far this month. So quite a few, which basically uses AI to help a brand craft their retention marketing templates. So we pull the logo, brand images, we analyze the copy of your website, etc., and craft that into the most optimal retention marketing email for your brand in the click of a button. But then we also go further than that. And let's say you update your copy, you update your brand colors on your website or add a coupon code or free shipping. We consistently are checking your website for that information and will automatically update your email flows to always, reflect your website, putting the coupon codes into the emails, putting the Black Friday, Cyber Monday messaging, etc., all into your retention marketing emails without you ever having to lift a finger. So, retention or email in general, we can continue driving 20% of your business, but it's a mind wipe. You never need to think about it again. So between identifying the shoppers landing on your website and crafting the best retention marketing emails, I think that there's a lot we're doing there. And then I think maybe just on a little more surface level, like I think one of the most painful things today is when you land on a website and the pop-up immediately comes up for you to enter in your email.
Yeah.
We've built a feature called predictive opt-in, which basically analyzes a shopper's behavior and surfaces that pop-up at the moment we think they are most likely to either convert or not convert. And we display it to that shopper then. And so that's seeing, huge increases in shoppers giving you their email address and your website.
Yeah.
And I think the last thing that brands can do straight away is like sending emails at the very right moment. A lot of brands today, they still set, a 2 hour, let's email that shopper 2 hours after they've abandoned their cart.
Yeah.
Whereas we know that today, Instant knows that Steve is most likely to convert at 8 p.m. at night when he's sitting on the couch. And so we should send him an email then. And so that's also another thing we've been doing a hell of a lot on with brands. So predictive opt-in, send time, and then just crafting the best emails with AI.
Yeah, this is wild. That whole RFM, that recency frequency monetization strategy, that's a really hard nut to crack. Trying to figure out, these loyal and these at risk and these churned customers, and trying to figure out, they bought this and statistically they should be buying this next, and how do we email them or text them next? And it's quite a complicated process. I think AI is certainly helping in a lot of that situation. It sounds like you're solving a lot of that, which is kind of lets me roll into my final question I want to talk about. And it's on everybody's mind. Unfortunately, for us here in North America, we're just getting into our summertime, but we have to think about what's actually going to happen in Q4, this holiday season, the BFCM. You kind of alluded to it a bit. Like, my question to you is now really the best time to turn on Instant? Obviously there's an incremental lift right away in revenue by having it on and having access to the power of the platform. But is there any benefit, or what is the incremental benefit of having it on now, knowing that, you're going to want to get a larger share of wallet in the Q4 holiday times? And then is it self-learning? Is it understanding my website visitors better now based on is there a machine learning kind of component saying, hey, we've been on your site for 4 months or 3 months now, Steve. We get your customer's journey and we see where people are converting. So we feel very empowered now that we're going to execute at a great level too when there's massive traffic during the BFCM and holiday time. Just want to hear your mindset around that.
Yeah, I mean, the brands that went live early in the year last year saw the best results in Q3. The Q3 is Q3, Q4, obviously the biggest quarters of the year.
Absolutely.
And when brands actually invest in their technology at the start of the year, they see incredible growth in these periods. But particularly when it comes to a product like Instant, where we're identifying the shoppers who are landing on your website, we need time to build up this identification. And so let's say a shopper, comes to your website in June, and then they return to your website at Black Friday, Cyber Monday at the end of the year. Ordinarily, your brand has forgotten who they are. Safari, Chrome have short-term memory loss, and they've forgotten. And this is the case for almost every brand around today. And so if you've got something like Instant enabled in June, and then that shopper's coming back at Black Friday, Cyber Monday, we're able to know and help you retarget that shopper after they've left your website. And that helps you stand out compared to your competitors because they've had this shopper that's landed on their website for the first time during their best Black Friday, Cyber Monday campaign. They don't know who they are. They have no way of bringing them back to purchase during their biggest sale of the year and their most important period of the year, whereas now you do. And so by doing that, that period is just going to be so lucrative from a retention marketing perspective, and it will probably be your best year yet.
Absolutely. Well, this is great. Well, I've really enjoyed this conversation today. I'm glad we were able to kind of unpack this because it was so interesting, kind of the problem you're solving. And I think it's an absolute no-brainer. For those that are listening today, if you really have not implemented a robust kind of retention marketing solution, it's really worth your time to at least get a demo. I think, there's a link on the website to book a demo. It's really easy to get started. And even having that 30-day free trial, it really does give an opportunity to really kind of kick the tires of it and saying, hey, based on my current business and my current operation, there's going to be a revenue lift. So you're actually leaving money on the table. It's a complete no-brainer. No wonder you've had hundreds of people signing up already in the last 30 days and you've onboarded because it's working. And that's why I have you on the show today, because I want strategies and software that's actually doing something. It's moving the needle.
Actually working, moving the needle, driving revenue, and just go live. So many pieces of technology, they take months.
I know.
Live, and it's a heavy lift. So
I know.
Thanks for having me on.
Oh, my pleasure. So we'll send it off to the website. So it's instant.one. So that's ONE. Go there. Everything will be in the show notes. We'll have it all updated. Once again, Liam, thanks so much for recording today. Thanks for the early recording. I appreciate it. And have yourself an awesome morning.
Thanks, Steve.
All right. Take care.
Well, that's it for today's episode. I'd like to thank you personally for being a loyal listener of eCommerce Fastlane. It's my hope that this podcast is offering you a ton of value through growth strategies, tactics, and exclusive insider tips on the best Shopify apps and marketing platforms, all with my personal goal to help you build, manage, grow, and scale a successful and thriving company powered by Shopify. Thanks for investing some time today and listening to the show. I'm so proud and excited that you have a growth mindset and are a constant learner. I truly appreciate you and your entrepreneurial journey. Enjoy the rest of the week and keep thriving with Shopify.